I am Doug Friedman.
And I am Meredith Levy.
And this is Your Mental Breakdown,
the podcast. Oh, you got it right this time. Good.
And I was off book. No script for that one either. We are your co-hosts, longtime friends, licensed psychotherapists, and generally decent human beings.
All around amazing.
Speaking of amazing, I'll give you a little wildlife update here for a second.
Oh, please do.
So there was a second mountain lion.
No.
2 days later, 2 nights later, earlier in the evening. So fortunately, it didn't wake me up at 1 o'clock in the morning. Went out and didn't open the door, looked through the window and shined my spotlight and saw a baby mountain lion, which was super cute. Yeah, cue the aw, you can say it.
Wait, was it with a parent or by itself?
Well, okay, so visibly it was by itself.
Okay.
But I don't think it was by itself.
Right.
I mean, whoever I saw 2 days earlier was probably Uncle Remus or something.
How big was it, the little one? Show me with your hands. No one else can see.
With hands? I don't know. I mean, it wasn't small, but it was clearly smaller than the one I'd seen 2 days earlier. And I mean, if I had to put money down and be like, yeah, Beckett could take that. Sure. But not really.
Yeah. I mean, sure, Beckett.
Right?
You have a scary bark, but I don't know about that.
A scary bark, and he can chase, but I mean, he wouldn't know what to do with a turkey if he caught one of those.
That's what I was going to say.
I mean, maybe he can. I don't know. And maybe we play around and we scrap all the time, but he will never clamp down. So I don't know what he would do, but I really don't want to find out.
No, I feel like, no. I think turkeys can be vicious too.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I just made that up, but I feel like they can.
Yeah. Mountain lions are cute and cuddly. Like I can bring it inside, give it some milk, knit it a sweater,
maybe
tell it some stories by the fire.
Knit it a sweater. Okay.
Me and my pet mountain lion, Gilda.
Oh.
So now anytime he wants to go outside when it's dark, I put him on a long leash and take him out there.
No way.
Which doesn't seem like a big deal. Yeah.
It is a big deal for him. He's never on a leash.
Well, for both of us, because if I have to go out there, I mean, it's a 20-foot leash like that. That's okay. He has freedom still.
Yeah.
I'm the one that has to gear up, especially when there's, patches of snow out there. I have to put on shoes. I have to put on a jacket, gloves, hat, spotlight. Right. But yeah, it takes an effort to just let him out the back door. And then I'm like, he'll go out there and just want to like look around and stare. I'm like, dude.
That's not what we're doing.
Yeah, he's like, why not? We're soaking in nature. Isn't that what we're out here for? Like, you are either much more highly evolved than I am or just freaking stupid.
Dumb.
I'll go with much more highly evolved because he can really soak it in.
Yep.
All right. You ready for this? Speaking of being outside and freedom, something I did not know and had no idea about.
That outdoor dining is open in LA?
No, a little more bizarre. Believe it or not, more bizarre than that.
What?
Okay, so I got a little bummed when I was selling my house that I put my refrigerator, my old one, on next door and somebody was going to pick it up. And so I moved it outside and somebody came by and took the doors off the fridge and left the fridge.
What?
And I was so bummed and had to like reach out to the person on next door and say, hey, sorry that you were going to come pick it up later today. Somebody took the doors off. Right?
No.
And this was many months ago, but my mom just recently said, well, it's illegal to put a fridge outside.
What?
I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, you can't put a fridge outside with doors.
Oh, because someone could get locked inside.
Exactly.
No
There's
way.
actually, yes, there are laws and many different states, maybe even counties will have whatever, they might have certain policies or procedures of how to do it, but you cannot just leave a fridge or an icebox or anything like that outside.
Oh, that stuff that you cut up dead bodies in, put them in?
Yeah.
In movies?
Yeah, exactly. The big white ones in the garage.
Yeah.
Where you've got like your frozen dinners and then underneath that, your chopped up English teacher.
Yes, exactly. Okay. I could see why that's danger. Sure.
I read a little after my mom said that because I really thought she was off her rocker, but she was right on it. And it's apparently if it's airtight and it cannot be opened from the inside, then you face criminal charges if you leave it outside.
Oh my God. Which, by the way, also, can you imagine if you had and something happened to somebody in it, like much less facing criminal charges, you'd be like, oh my God, I was trying to do a nice thing.
Right. I was pretty much giving away my old fridge to somebody.
Yeah.
And some kid climbed in there and, well, maybe not even if they did that, but I got a ticket for that or I got thrown in jail for that. Like, are you kidding me? Really?
Oh my God.
What is the world coming to?
I'll tell you what it's coming to now. Outdoor dining.
Hit it.
Yeah. It's just, I never thought how exciting it would be. And there's sides to all of it for sure. I'm not going yet. I will at some point when all the fanfare has died down. It's not as crazy.
Right.
I mean, I will for sure. But just I was driving through town yesterday and like all these people were out and it was like so nice to see for the businesses. And everyone's outside and having dinner and laughing. And there was like lights on again in places. And it looked like the world was alive again, even just outdoor dining.
Sure. I mean, what you're seeing now is more like they have in other countries, maybe other cities. In New York, they have it a lot, like sidewalk dining.
Yeah, totally.
I've seen places in LA before I left and here in Colorado where they shut down streets so that the restaurants could spill over and offer dining outside.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool.
It is cool, for sure. We can all handle not driving that one block, We'll be fine.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess if you can valet and the valet just runs 6 blocks away to get your car, then it's okay, right?
You're not wrong. Yeah. I'm a big fan of valet.
Speaking of valet.
I thought you were going to talk about Drew.
I was going to go to Drew. I was like, wow, there is no real valet segue. I'm forcing the segues. This is not good. We got to get back to being much more natural. Speaking of getting back to being much more natural.
I wonder if other people think we're as funny as we think we are.
I doubt it.
Nah.
They might be laughing at us. I don't know if they're laughing with us.
Speaking of laughing with us.
And at us, we're throwing another session at you. So stick around, listen up. We will be back in a little while to break it down for you.
We sure will.
I was in church last night and they were talking about different motivations and kind of what gets you out of bed. And one of them, it's ego, economic, but the ego, I think that plays into my lifestyle. I mean, they all three did. And it was crazy because I really realized that the ego-centric motivation has been huge for me in the last 24 years. And I never realized that. I just never even realized that I needed other people's. And I know we've talked about reassurance and assurance and confidence and all of that.
Right.
But I think a step further than that is it motivates me to get out of bed in the morning. And I don't think that's a bad thing per se. Mm-hmm. I just think I got caught up in it. And now that I don't have that, I'm finding myself staying in bed all day.
Well, that ego, that economic, you don't have the job you have to go to or something to prove for somebody to give you feedback. And maybe the third thing is more, I don't know what they would have called it, but self. Because ego, as it sounds like it's being defined and we understand it, is what do people think of me? What feeds that ego? What feeds that thing? And economic is sort of like, I have to pay rent, so I have to work for money. But there's something about internal, what actually nurtures you, what actually feels good, gives you a sense of purpose or being of service, something that when nobody sees. If you're nice to somebody and no one's there to give you credit for
it, doesn't feel the same.
Right.
Yeah.
I would dig into that and go, there's a way to have it feel the same or different that comes from internal. Somebody cuts you off, you flip them off, right?
Right.
Somebody needs to get in, you wave them in. You're kind of looking for, they're going to give me that little nod.
And then if they don't, I get mad.
Right, right. That's the ego thing again.
Right.
I'm looking for that acknowledgement, that reassurance that we've talked about. If it's purely coming from you, it doesn't matter. They pull in front of you and you go, yeah, I waved them in, I let them go. Awesome. I feel good about that. And that's hard. It's hard. It takes a while to get there because a lot of, like you said, 24 years of other of ego and economic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to just shift to that internal self or whatever that might have been called, right?
Yeah. I'm still trying to get myself to get out of bed, and it's still going on, and I don't quite understand why. And so I'm trying to figure out where my motivation is and why at the core of it, because I'm just not doing anything.
Yeah, I hear that. And it's sometimes we need to have compassion for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough thing to do. But then we need to discern, is this a time for compassion or is this a time to kick myself into gear?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think the compassion piece, okay, he went through the breakup, he went through a little change. I've healed from that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a little down, in a little weed haze some of the time,
Mm-hmm.
just not that motivated, not a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I would say a big part of how your brain was shaped was when I'm doing for other people, when I'm taking care of things,
Mm-hmm.
that gives me purpose.
Yeah.
So there's a reason to get out of bed, but that's a reason for them.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking for that internal, that what's my reason
Right.
to get up?
Yeah, because that happened last night. So I went to church last night, and a friend came with me for the first time, which was like really cool.
Oh, wow.
Like it was sick. Like that was like the bee's knees as far as like everything we're talking about. It was one of the most incredible church experiences I've ever had in my life. Like it was
Really?
wild. But within that, I kept thinking to myself, I'm so happy he's here. Not I'm so happy I'm here. And I thought about that my whole way home of like, why am I so happy he's here? Why can't I be happy that I'm there? Because I'm going there for myself. Like I want to be there. I want to show him what I'm doing. I'm not going there for him.
Right.
I have all these questions and I don't have that many answers yet. And I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm trying to like back to 6 months ago of just trying things and seeing where I fit in.
Sure.
And now I'm doing it on a motivation standpoint and trying to just see where I'm at. And it sucks.
Yeah, it sucks right now. It's going to lead us down a path that might actually be the opposite of suck.
Yeah.
It's something where we don't have to figure it out. Like, there, I cracked the code. Here's why. But we start to understand what's going on and what that means, maybe where it comes from, maybe just how it feels now. And that's okay.
Yeah.
There's something, I think we've talked about the challenge versus the adventure mentality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me have the experience versus, what's the end result?
Yeah.
When we talk about a challenge mentality, the end result is like what it's all about, right? With an adventure mentality, what it's all about is the experience. And what validates that is sharing the experience. Because if you have the experience, if you let that car in front of you, well, what good is it unless I get to share that?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily sharing it so someone can go, oh, man, you're such a good person. Man, what a good driver you've become. It's, it just felt good. I want to share this good feeling with somebody. Even if it's a bad feeling, we want to share that too.
Yeah.
We're not looking for somebody to make it better right away.
Right.
Goes way back to what we would talk about when you'd have panic attacks, night terrors. Like, how do I wake up in the middle of the night and tell my girlfriend about this right now? Because she's not going to be able to help. We're not looking for the help to make it better. We're not looking for that end result. We're looking for that connection to share this.
I think I'm really like longing for that connection, and not in a relationship, just somebody in my life that gets it the way I do, that I can talk about life with. You're
right. It's not a relationship, and it's in part community, which we've talked about before, and having that. As we're talking about this internal stuff, that motivation coming from you, what I think we're getting at is I'm really looking for that validation of my own experience. Because our experience in life is a singular experience.
Right.
I would love it to be, no, it's with your partner and together forever and it's going to be amazing, wonderful. But not parents, not siblings, not girlfriend or wife or whatever it's going to be. Good friends come close. I think really it's our solitary experience, but what we need and what we want is to connect with people and share that experience.
Yeah.
What good is it if I can't share?
Yeah. I think this whole last 6 months, all encompassing, has been brand new for me just in general. And I think that's where my compassion part comes in, where I just need to be like, okay, I've only been doing this for 6 months. Like, let's slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
But like 80% of me wants to kick my ass in gear and get going again.
Yeah. And maybe it's not an either or.
Yeah.
Either I have compassion for myself or I have to get back in gear and get going again. It's the human being and the human doing.
Yeah.
You can have both present. Yeah. Rewind 6 months. Like, I mean, the thought of you going out on your own.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, even it was amazing. We talked about it one week, and the next week you're like, yeah, I talked to my dad about it. And I was like, but no, Dad, I want to do it with you. Like, right? That's I want that. Can I get a witness?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, literally in church, you might hear that.
Yeah.
But I want to share this experience. So it validates it for me. And having my dad there for that would have validated that, would have given me that shared experience. And then you kind of walk through that like, no, wait, I want to do it on my own. I want to do it. Okay. You started walking through that, all new, all very new. And you did it very fast. And then kind of go, wait, hang on a sec. Where am I? What's going on?
Yeah. And I'm kind of like at the end of my ropes on that. I think I'm burning out. I think that's another way for me to kind of say it. I think that burnout and depression kind of go hand in hand. My days are flying by, which is the other scary part for me.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, I'll just sleep today. And then it's a week. And then it's like, whoa, what just happened?
Right.
And then I lost a week. And now I'm losing months doing stuff. But it's not, and it's what I want to be doing. It's just not giving me the, I don't know the word, not reassurance, but the motivation piece of like, okay, I did that. Let's go do it again.
I think of words we've talked about. We mentioned them a little bit today. Purpose, service.
Yeah.
You know, which I know are big for you too. There's also a concept we've talked about, I think, before, compassion fatigue. Therapists talk about it all the time. You know, you care so much for others that you're just burnt out.
Yeah.
You can care so much for yourself. There's self-compassion fatigue too.
Yeah. And I think that's where I'm at right now. I think I've given myself a little too much compassion. I don't think it's a bad thing because again, first time kind of figuring all this shit out and I'm trying to get my levels right and find that happy medium. And I think I was doing the either or. I wasn't allowing the two to live in harmony. Kind of to our conversation months ago of leaving that 10% for disappointment. I think I needed to kind of pull that back into my life. Because I mean, at the end of the day, everything's fine. Like we're okay, we're good. But it's not where I want to be.
I'll dig into it this way. At the end of the day, it's fine. What about during the day?
Yeah.
Because it's what do I want my experience of this to be now? And you're right, the compassion or self-compassion, that fatigue part will lead to the burnout, could lead to depression. And it's the kind of thing where, all right, wait, at some point I just got to go, all right, I understand what I've been through. It has been a lot. I have had some rest and recuperation. And now I want to do something.
Yeah.
And now I want to actually get active and be during the day, not at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. I almost want to take that a step further and do it in the morning. I want to get back up to waking up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and getting my shit done and going through a day and not smoking copious amounts of weed. And that was a great routine for me. And I thrived in that. I've been smoking a lot of weed the last couple of months. And because of that, it's changed my routine.
Sure.
And so now I wake up, I smoke, I come home during lunch, I smoke, I come home at night, I smoke. And it's not even like I'm getting stoned anymore. I want to get out of that and wait till I'm literally about to go to bed. Because, I mean, we talked about this day one. You know, I want to get to the point where I don't need it at all.
I would throw in, well, and I don't want it as much. Because you might still, like at the end of the day.
I don't want it. I don't crave it. It's not like a glass of water where I'm like, yeah, that was a good glass of water. It's like smoke. What are we doing now?
A good glass of water and that, it quenches your thirst.
Yeah.
You have a thirst that doesn't get quenched. It just gets delayed.
Yeah.
And in effect, you're making yourself thirstier.
Yeah.
Right? If you know the expression, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. I believe that it comes from being like stranded on like a little rowboat or something, and there's water all around you, but you can't drink ocean water because it's so salty, it makes you thirstier. It's not going to quench.
Yeah.
Right? And I think about that in terms of the weed. It's, no, you're not getting high. It's not about that at all. It's, there's a thirst. I'm still thirsty. It's not quenching it. I don't want to keep doing it because it's fucking other things up now. Day one, we talked about it. And I said, is it keeping you from where you want to be? That's the barometer I use. And I would say right now, the answer is yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. So it's one thing, you'll remember me saying this, to look at the absence of negative things. I want to not do that. I want to say no. Okay. What about the presence of positive things? What is it you do want to do? If we can start focusing on those, it's not that you're going to say no to weed. You're going to say yes to these things that you want.
Yeah.
Which goes back to the crux of like, I don't know what I want. That's why it's hard to get out of bed.
Yeah.
That's why if I just smoke and put a little haze on it, it delays that. I don't have to think about that.
Yeah. It's prolonging the inevitable, because like right when I sober up, all that like wave of like, this is what I should be doing comes back. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, no. And it's almost like I'm running from it. And then the sleeping is just, again, running from it. I've been here before. I've done this, like I've been through this mode of my life before, and I know I'll get out of it. Like I'm not worried about that. Mm-hmm. I want to go through it again and go through it and realize why I'm doing it and for what reasons, and kind of take a step back and kind of grow in it. I don't know if I'll ever stop completely smoking weed, but I need to get it to a point where I'm controlling it, not it's controlling me. I think it's been so normalized for me that I don't see it as anything other than a glass of water, just part of my day. It is so normal to me now that I haven't even taken that step back to be like, oh, wait, this isn't for everybody. Maybe this isn't for me. Absolutely. I just don't know where I'm at with it.
One little thing I hear in there is about not compounding it and making it worse or more, beating yourself up. Because that idea that when I get sober, then I'm like, oh man, I should have been doing this. I should have been doing that. And there you are, shooting all over yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, well, hang on. No, it was about choices, and I made these choices. I guess I can't really fault myself for the choices I made while I was high-ish. Mm. Maybe it's the choice to get high, and that I can make a different choice about.
Yeah.
But the I shouldn't have done, that's tough, because then you're going to start feeling bad about yourself. That's going to lead to the depression. Because, I'm not doing anything. I should be doing more. I'm such a loser. I'm a failure. I'm not good enough. Whatever. Might as well just smoke some more now. And that's usually unconsciously going on. When we're busy and when we're the human doing, that doesn't creep in as much.
Yeah.
So we have to somehow manufacture some of that now. So you have some sense of purpose, something to do.
It's been 7 months. I don't want to beat myself up too bad, but it's like, what have I accomplished in those 7 months? That's what I ask myself. It's like, in those 7 months, what have I gotten done? And I think about it, and it's like, I did a couple projects, I traveled a little bit, I got a dog. That's really it.
I would disagree with that being it, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at it, again, with sort of that outcome-based challenge mentality of, what did I produce?
Yeah, what did I achieve in those last 7 months?
Right. You also said to me, probably more than 7 months ago, maybe I shouldn't be with anybody right now.
Yeah.
I need to just like take care of this. Like, what's that? Like myself. What does that mean? Healing. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's just frustrating because it's like, I know I had to go through all of this to heal and figure shit out.
Right.
And I think even right now, I feel much better right now in the shit than I did a year ago when we first met. Like, I feel much better that I can handle my shit. Like, I know it's okay. It's just hard because I always get tangible, like, okay, this is what I accomplished on paper. This is something I can't put on paper. This is something I can talk to people about it, but it's not like, oh my God, you did that? It's like, oh, you're in therapy?
Push that aside for a second.
Right.
And look at part of what you did accomplish. Clinically, we call it individuation, becoming my own person separate from my parents. That you didn't get to experience as, a 15-year-old because you were just seeing, I need to be the one to take care of mom. And then my friends and my cousin and holy shit. So you didn't get to experience that. And you were very tied to your parents' well-being for your well-being.
Yeah.
So what did you accomplish in the last 7 months that you can talk about? I got to learn how to let go of, not that I necessarily entirely let go of,
right.
My self-worth and my sense of purpose being tied to my parents and what they think of me or how they're doing or how others are doing. And I'm now better equipped to be my own person.
Yeah.
And to be in a relationship where it's not all about making sure the other person's okay, making sure like I'm strengthening myself.
Hell yeah.
Drop that on somebody, man.
Yeah. I guess it's more of like the internal dichotomy of like where I'm at in my own brain of what am I accomplishing for my own self.
Right.
Kind of back into that motivation thing. And like I have learned a lot and I've grown a lot and I've done a lot. Even last week, I was with a friend. We're walking up. He's launching his own clothing line. He launched last week. Really good. Awesome. Love it. Great. I kind of got to back up a little bit at workplace. I was really, really good there because I was comfortable in my own space. As soon as we went somewhere else, that's where I would get really quiet and shut down. And this isn't my spot. I'm not comfortable here. I don't know how to act. And I actually thought about this consciously while I was there. I was walking around and just randomly started chopping it up with the guys that are doing Friend brand. And so we're just hanging, being guys. And I sat there and I was like, wow, this is fucking crazy. Like, this is fucking crazy what I'm doing right now. I'm in Las Vegas with a friend, launching his brand, talking about the next 15 years of our lives. I would never have been able to do that if I didn't go through this last, I guess 24 years, but this last 6 months, year specifically. And I considered that a huge win, just overall in a lot of different categories. One, I came as family. So to be able to be not blood, but still family and somewhere I'm not comfortable and still be comfortable.
Wow.
Was really big. And like to see that consciously was really cool. And like the whole trip, we were just a bunch of dudes hanging. And it wasn't work. It wasn't, oh, I got to be here. I got to do this. Like, it was just, let's just hang and see where this goes. And it really allowed me to be in the moment. And I really like enjoyed just sitting there and being with my dudes.
Today, that adventure versus challenge mentality, like, oh, was that challenge mentality, that it was outcome driven, that it was about the win?
Yeah.
And what you just described was about being there and how you were there. That was about the experience. So it was more adventure.
Yeah.
So you won by virtue of it being an adventure, not a challenge.
Yeah.
And it was being in an uncomfortable situation and being okay with that is being present. 6 months ago, barely a year ago, nope.
Not even close.
Right.
Like, not even close.
That's huge.
Yeah. Well, and I find myself, like, I'll probably still blush every once in a while. I'm as fair skinned as they get. But even that is going away. The embarrassment factor of like, oh, you're looking at me, you're talking to me, flush in the face. Even that doesn't happen as often anymore. But that's something I've worked on since I was 5. Just a little kid, being called out for having a red face and being embarrassed. And why are you embarrassed? What's going on?
Right.
And now that I'm kind of growing out of that, it's allowing me to build myself confidence. I think since I've built my self-confidence, it's allowed me to get out of that.
Yeah, so interesting, because I think there's something that we'll take on as I got embarrassed. Oh, shit, there's something wrong with me. This flush feeling that I have turning red. I shouldn't. Well, you are.
Right.
It's physiology. So many people have that same feeling and don't have that manifestation of it. Okay. And it's something where if it goes back that far to being that young, it fits with the narrative of there's something wrong with me. There's something I need to be better at, that I need to overcome, that I'm not doing enough. That's rough.
Yeah.
Because it's just a feeling that hits you.
Right.
And the real strength in vulnerability is going, ooh, yeah, I did turn around. I got a little embarrassed there. Why? Why do you think? It's a sensitive thing we're talking about. Or like, God, I just felt like I got this feeling of like not being good enough for a second. You say that to anybody, it's going to fucking floor them.
Yeah.
Because it's so honest and authentic that I guarantee any embarrassment that you felt leading up to you saying something like that will go away, and it will just be commanding confidence.
Yeah.
It's just going to be like, wait, I'm good. Okay, yeah, that happened. I just got flush. I get embarrassed sometimes. Just owning like, yeah, I get embarrassed. And then it takes all the power away, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think vulnerability is, true strength is. It's not necessarily knowing our weaknesses, but just knowing how we are, knowing that we're human. Then these human things are okay.
I think I'm getting back to my human nature of non-perfection. And I'm realizing that perfection is imperfection. I think perfect sucks. It's the best way that I think I'd say it. Perfect is boring.
Well, perfect is also not attainable, not reachable, not true.
Yeah.
The pursuit of perfection might be amazing, but achieving perfection, I mean, think about one of the most perfect athletes, air quote perfect, because he was not,
Right.
Is Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And what made him great and what everybody remembers about him wasn't just his 81-point game or his 5 championships, or it was how relentlessly he pursued perfection.
Yeah, it's the Mamba mentality.
That's
for
right.
Sure. Yeah.
That's right. Because it's about how we do that, not what we did.
And I think it's so dope that that's what people remember him for, of his like hard work and being the first one in, last one to leave, that kind of shit.
Yep.
Instead of the him and Shaq or the 81-point game or the championships or the Oscars, all these accolades the dude has.
Yeah.
And people are like, yeah, that dude works really hard.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
It was the pursuit of perfection in all avenues that defined how he lived. Not achieving it. It's not getting to that point, you know?
Well, and it's crazy too, because he achieved perfection in championships and MVPs and all of his...
Was that enough?
Never was.
Right.
It never was. I think that goes across the board. Nothing is ever enough. Because I have best friends next to me, but here I am saying I want more.
Right.
I have family, but I'm sitting here saying I want more. I have, quote unquote, a job, but I want more.
Right.
And so it's like, I want to slow that roll and get back into here's my friends, here's my family, here's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And being okay with it.
Yep.
And not being okay with it, enjoying it and being happy with what I'm doing.
Yeah. Enjoying it, being happy with what I'm doing. That's the key, because that, again, it goes to the pursuit of perfection. I've talked to professional athletes, and the thing that they miss the most isn't the ring they won, the trophy they got. It's the locker room with all the guys. It's the competing in that way. And some of the best conversations they've had are about the game, not the game itself.
And connect on that level together.
Yes. Yeah. It's about sharing that pursuit. Like, I've got these people around, but that's not enough. But I want more. It's not about more. It's about actually experiencing what you've got here and now while you have it.
Yeah.
That's why I think going to church with him was fantastic. I'm having this great experience, and look, I get to actually share it with somebody. Here's that person I let in on the road that gave me the wave in the mirror, right? Here's that acknowledgement. Here's that validation. Here's sharing this experience.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. I can ask for what I want. I can say something really means something to me. It would be really cool. Like, and I see a smile creeping up on your face.
Yeah. Because it's funny. I said that to him right before we went in. You know, I was like, man, this means a lot to me. I'm just excited to share this with you. And that was it.
There it is.
It was there.
Yeah. That's the voice I want us to pay attention to and listen to and see if we can bring out a little more. There is the risk. It's sort of what you said, like that 10%. Being able to have them be disappointed, have that be okay. You might get disappointed too. There might be a risk. And I'm going to do the invite 100%, but there's a 10% that they'll say no. And that's not a flat out rejection of me. It's just, okay, they're not going to share this.
Absolutely. It was cool though.
And we are back.
We sure are.
That's my newscaster voice. And we are back. Welcome back.
It's a good newscaster's voice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So break it down, Meredith. What you got?
Okay. I'm going to break it down. No, I liked it. You guys jumped into some good stuff right away, talking about church and the things that they were talking about in church that resonated with them. And one of those things was the ego and like the economic and the ego. And then it's funny, he said, well, I realized like egocentric motivation has been my drive for the last 24 years. You started laughing. I was like, okay. I mean, I get what he's saying, but that is the core of our being in ways that's okay. I mean, that's normal. That's okay. That's sort of the way humans work in a lot of ways. And I think there's a difference between like ego and egocentric and material driven or whatever it is. But I think that if without other human beings and their validation and our connection with them, then like well, we would all die, obviously, but.
Well, this is where I saw an opening, because building off of what he and I talked about last week, right? With wanting connection, wanting people around him. And what I see for him is he's really starting to find that sense of self and finding his self-worth and feeling a sense of purpose. For him, if you remember back a few weeks when he was questioning even staying in the fashion industry, that was where I'm hearing like, okay, he's really looking for a sense of purpose. And the last several weeks, he's also not been very motivated, just had his friend pass away, smoking a lot of weed.
Right.
So I spun it. If you remember when he said, they said three things: ego, economic, and can't remember the third.
Yeah.
So I kind of just put in there, well, maybe the third was more internal motivation. And that was me using sort of his language to highlight something to help find purpose and meaning in life, so to speak, right? I mean, he's talking about getting out of bed in the morning, but we're using it sort of in the meta way.
Yeah. And it's funny, you guys talked about, it's like if a tree falls in the wood, if there's no one, whatever, you know that thing.
Yeah. If there's no one there to see your good deed. I remember when I was younger wanting to give like homeless people money. And I think back then I had the kind of ego that wanted to get credit for it.
Right.
So I'd tell somebody I did that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the tree falling in the forest. If no one hears, if no one sees it, it doesn't matter. And that's even what we're talking about in traffic, letting a car in. Right. You're looking for that little nod, that little thank you. And he's like, yeah.
Oh, it's so true.
Right.
And if I don't get it, I do get annoyed. And I'm like, and I'll even say out loud, okay, have a good day.
Right.
Okay, wait. Okay. So he was talking about wanting to get out of bed.
Right.
And you guys were talking it through. And I was thinking, this is where I do so much behavioral work that as soon as he said that, I would have said, okay, so this is what you want to do. You want to get out of bed in the morning. You want to start getting out of bed. You're not doing it. What can we do? If that's what you want to do, let's work on that. So what can you do? And let's figure it out now and start small and hold you accountable. You text me once you're up, or I'll text you and check in. But like, how are we going to take these steps to follow through with this behavior that you want to do? And it's interesting to see that, like, because that's not really what you do that much. I mean, sometimes, but.
Right. Sometimes. And that's, I mean, that very much is a behavior mod piece. And I look at what's the motivation behind, because what I know about him is he's smoking a lot of weed. I think somewhere either right after that or right before that, he says, yeah, and I'm smoking copious amounts of weed, and I wake up and I smoke.
After,
I used to wake up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, and I want to get back to that. So what I was teasing out was more like the motivational interviewing piece, you know, where you highlight where you want to be and how you are, and that it's incongruent. How you are is not going to lead you to how you want to be.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it that way. And from what he was saying earlier, I saw an opening to really look at your internal motivation, and something that I know we've been working on, that idea of having a purpose and feeling like I'm of service and giving myself more meaning.
Right.
To me, that's a deeper thing. And I'm less concerned about how do I get him up and out of bed early in the morning the next 3 days in a row. I'm like, wait, I see an opening here to plant a seed for something that's going to grow.
Right.
And then fast forward a few months, maybe it could be a few weeks. He's going to be telling me that he's waking up early.
Yeah, it's cool for people listening, just the different styles of therapy, and even within the same style, when you choose to sort of pick something and choose, and it's just like a whole different thing. And to that point, he talks about wanting to get up at 5 or 6 in the morning. And I felt better then. I had this routine. In my mind, I went to, okay, buddy, slow your roll. Let's not set yourself up for failure, right? If you're sleeping all day right now, do not start planning on getting up at 5 or 6 in the morning, all of a sudden starting tomorrow for the rest of your life. Like you're setting yourself up for failure. How about if you're getting up at noon, you get up at 9 or 11 instead one day this week and see how that goes.
Absolutely. I love that. You're absolutely right. And it's something for him where I can see him, and people do this all the time as clients. And I mean, even when they're not clients, they do it, but I hear it a lot where they'll go, oh, right. Okay. Yeah. I'll make that change. they'll correct themselves as though they were wrong before. I'm like, well, you weren't wrong. You were ineffective for how you want to be. And it's not about making a correction and there, I did it. I'm done. I'll never make that mistake again. That's black or white thinking. That's not going to get you there. Like you're saying, it's going to set you up to fail. Yeah.
It's those people who are like, okay, starting tomorrow, I'm going to work out 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm like, well, when was the last time you worked out? 10 years ago. Okay. So that's not going to happen. It's definitely not happening. If it does, you're going to hurt yourself. So let's just like roll back a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Especially when people go hard at that behavioral modification piece, they just want to, okay, I'll modify my behavior. I will change. That's not lasting change. You can get there that way. You absolutely can. It's something where you can create the habit and then it's part of how you are.
Yeah.
And that's what I hear in Drew. And I said this to him, was how his brain has been shaped and how he's been for so long is doing for other people and taking care of them. That gives me purpose. And that's what'll get me out of bed. And that's what'll get me going.
Right.
And he hasn't been feeling that lately. Like, okay, my opening with him is what's going to give you that internal purpose and motivation. And then he mentioned the church thing.
Yeah. And so when he said that his friend came with him to church and it was like the best experience ever. And he was sitting there and he realized that he was really glad that his friend came.
It wasn't just the best experience ever. He used a phrase that I know you must have heard and loved.
Was that when he said bee's knees? Oh my God, fucking love that. I was like, who are you, dude? 1950? Like, that was amazing.
Right.
But yeah, and then he was saying he was glad that his friend was there, but he wasn't like, oh, I'm so glad I'm here. And I was thinking, who gives a fuck? It's okay to be glad that your friend is there. You don't have to focus on you're glad you're there. You can just say, oh, I'm so glad my friend is here. I'm glad my friend is enjoying it. Even if you're not glad you're there. But the fact is you got there because you went with your friend. I don't think that's like people saying, I mean, my belief personally, in order to get sober, you have to want to do it for yourself. And I'm like, not really. I don't care who you start out wanting to do it for. But if you continue on your own, right?
Right. In order to sustain it, it has to be your internal motivation.
100%. Yes.
You're absolutely right. Because did he like his friend being at church with him? Absolutely. He's loved that.
Yeah,
We've talked about that before, where his friend will do things with him and he's like, oh, this is amazing, right? What he was connecting, because we were talking about it a certain way, finding your internal motivation. And he was like, right. And when I was at church and my friend came with me, it was amazing. It was the bee's knees. I loved that. And at the same time, he made the connection to, but wait, how come I'm not just happy that I'm here? That's where he's recognizing, oh, that internal motivation isn't there. Doesn't mean he's not happy his friend's with him. Of course he is.
Totally.
And remember, for Drew, a lot of how he's been for so long, how I've said his brain is shaped, is doing for other people. Even going back to last week, if I save everybody else, I will save my mom and that will save me. Like, can we start with you?
Right.
Can we start there first?
Right.
And that's what he's starting to connect and starting to see in places.
And then you guys talked about the challenge versus adventure mentality, and that having a shared experience. So having his friend in church, like, it's not necessarily you want the validation or the motivation, but just somebody to share good things with. And you even talked about like sharing not so good things with, like wanting someone there when you have the night terrors, right?
Sure.
But just having a shared experience. And that, again, so I think it's important for us to not take every situation and we're like, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Why am I not focused on myself? Like, because there's a continuum and all different reasons and all different, if in general we lack internal motivation completely, I think that's something we have to look at and like figure out. But at the same time, a lot of people don't give themselves credit when they actually do have internal motivation, right? I think it's hard to recognize sometimes. You can be internally motivated to get external validation.
Sure. I mean, I think having both is really important.
Yes.
There might be a time when he's loving that he's in church and he's loving that a friend is there with him. And it's both those things. And it's so wonderful to be back in the before days, be at a concert and be loving the music, and you're watching the music and you feel connected to the band and you feel the energy of the crowd. And if you have somebody next to you that you can look at and go like, oh my God, isn't this amazing? That's where I said, can I get a witness? It's like, we want that. We want to feel that. We want to share the experience. Absolutely.
Can I just tell a really quick funny thing that as you said that I remembered? So I was at a Coldplay concert at the Greek Theater in LA. Big open air theater. So amazing. I fucking love Coldplay. They're so good live. I'm at this concert. I'm in it. I'm so in it. I'm so connected. And my boyfriend at the time was there and he's so annoying. And I was just like, and he was like holding me from like hugging me and like, oh, and I was like, get the fuck off me. All I want is to not enjoy this with you. I don't want the shared experience with you. Wow. Or I don't want it the way you want it. Get away from me. And but like, it's usually not that way. It's usually sort of like what you're saying.
Right.
I'm that way in movies. In movies, I always want to be like whoever I'm with, be like, oh, did you hear that? Like, what does that mean? Or, you know?
Right. They're like, shush, shush, shush,
yeah,
I'm watching.
For sure.
Yeah. And that's right. It's sometimes, not always, a good indication that, oh, well, maybe that's not your fella.
Oh, it was a good indication. That's for damn sure. It was a good indication.
And other people will get really offended that they want to share that experience and the other person doesn't. And sometimes it just means that other person is having an independent experience and an individual experience. And you can do that and then share that with somebody like,
sure.
Wow, when they were playing Fix You, I just went to another place and it was amazing.
Oh,
it was so cool.
So
and
sad. Love that song.
You can share that with them on the car ride home. You don't have to share that in the moment necessarily.
And that's where it's really important to have good communication where you can say, if that person doesn't feel good about it, oh, sorry, this is what happened for me. I wasn't trying to exclude you, or in general, just to like have those conversations that we process differently, and that's okay.
Right. Which I think is kind of fun because you and I are doing a series now on some of the different personality scales, like the Enneagram, the Myers-Briggs test, the love languages, and understanding this about your partners, sure. Understanding this about
all of them,
whoever it might be, right?
Yeah.
Is really important because when there is a disconnect like that, it feels like such a rejection, but it might just be, oh, we just have a different way of having this experience and sharing this experience. I still want to share it, but I need to have this version of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So you guys talk about compassion fatigue and self-compassion fatigue. And I thought about it and I was actually talking it out with a friend and I was like, no, I don't believe there is self-compassion fatigue. And then as I was talking it through, I was like, no, I think that it's more about the middle path of like having compassion for yourself and then also being able to say, okay, now it's time to do this or that and to motivate and to kick myself in the ass. And then, so I was like, oh yeah. So I guess it is sort of self-compassion fatigue where it's like at the far end of the scale, you're like, okay, is it feeling sorry for myself? Is it giving me this excuse / justification to not do things? Is it self-compassion? Whatever it is, the idea is that I think finding that middle path between allowing yourself the time and the downtime and also then at some point saying, okay, and now let me like get going a little bit, put one foot in front of the other.
Exactly. And remember, he's not a therapist. If I were training a therapist and telling them about self-compassion fatigue, it would sound different.
Yeah.
For him, what I was scratching at, and I don't know if we got to it at this point, but I know we did in this session, was part of his self-compassion was some days I do want to stay in bed. Some days I just want to hang out with the puppy and smoke weed and not do anything and stay here. Like, right. And there can be a fatigue with that. Like we're doing too much of that. Yeah. We're taking, like you said, feeling sorry for ourselves or coddling ourselves too much. And especially if we're just smoking weed and just trying to get through something. Yeah. Granted, this is still a month before the pandemic hits, right? So a lot of us were doing a lot of this for the past nearly year. Yeah. Right. But there comes a point when you have to recognize like, wait, I'm not really how I want to be. I'm just sort of killing time or especially smoking weed or whatever it might be that keeps you in a seemingly self-compassion place. You can be doing too much of that. And then I think he even said it, and it leads to like depression or burnout. Yeah. Like I'm doing too much of this and now I don't feel productive. And and then at the end of the day, I go, what did I do all day? I think he even said, and then 7 months later, I kind of go, where have I been for the last 7 months? Which is just wait, buddy, wait for your next 7 months.
Oh my God. Right. Well, I'm going to get back to that, but all your analogies are great. But
Aw.
when you were talking about how he was saying how he was smoking more weed lately. He's not just craving it, but he's not really craving it. He's just doing it. And then you gave the water metaphor and you're like, your thirst doesn't get quenched. It just delays it.
Yeah. Well, that's the analogy that the water everywhere, not a drop to drink, which he had never heard.
Yeah.
And that, I love that because I would see all these people, and growing up when they were TV shows or movies, when they're like stranded out at sea and they're like dehydrated. I'm like, oh, why don't they just drink the water? I mean, they're in water. I don't get it. Like, oh, it's salt water. Oh, it makes you thirstier.
Yeah.
Water everywhere, not a drop to drink. It's going to make you crave it more. It does not quench your thirst. And it's so wild. And I think that's, for him, the weed especially, so habitual. And it's just something that he's doing. It's not, I think I've even asked him at some points, several points, like about getting high. And he's like, oh yeah, no, I don't get high.
Yeah.
Like it's not that, like, and that's like, right. I don't quench my thirst.
No, exactly. Yeah. And he said he wants to be able to control it as opposed to it controlling him, which I liked. And I like that in general. Then you talked about that cycle of like him beating himself up for it and that causes depression. And then he goes on to talk about, I haven't accomplished anything in the last 7 months. And like, as soon as he said that out loud, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? I was like, I get it. He wanted it to be tangible and I get it. I do. And also what? Like, I was like, dude, you have accomplished so much in the last 7 months. Are you fucking kidding? You have grown immensely as a person and tackled so many things, and the brother and the mom and the family and the wedding and the, like, all this stuff, those are tangible in my eyes, much less just the internal growth he's done that maybe doesn't get communicated to anybody. But I mean, and you guys talked that through a little bit, but as soon as he said that, I was like, I was like, okay, well then I don't know what I've done for the past 7 months.
Right. And I love this because it's a lot of what we've been doing and what we've been leading to without going at it directly was that maybe the weed is keeping him from how he wants to be or doing something he wants to do, which that's part of what he was saying, like being in this haze for 7 months. And, what you're hinting at, look, you and I are both therapists. And even before we were therapists, we would recognize personal growth and we could see it internally very well.
Right.
For him, I mean, it's sort of like when he was talking to a friend and they're like, oh, you're in therapy? Oh, snap.
Right.
Like, yeah. And he doesn't know like how to say to his friends. And we even said this, like, yeah, I'm growing through therapy. Like I've become more of an individual and I'm breaking free from my parents and I'm feeling stronger in myself.
Right.
Like people don't generally talk like that. We do. We always have pretty much.
Right.
So it's just highlighting that for him. And I love that he's recognizing it and he's seeing certain moments too, which I'm not going to jump out of turn because you're going to hit, I think, one of these in a second.
Okay. It's coming. Is it the red-faced one?
Sure. That's part of it. Yeah. It's the whole being in Vegas. I don't know if you caught it because we had to clip some of the identifiers in there, but his friend is launching his own brand and they were in Vegas for the launch of the brand.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there and he's saying like some of the things that he absolutely loved about being there in Vegas with this friend was he felt like they were there as family.
Yeah.
And that goes to what he was saying, like wanting that connection and wanting good people in LA.
Right.
And he felt like, yes, I'm here with family. I'm being treated like family. This is great. And then being outside of my comfort zone. And he was okay with that. And he loved that.
He was comfortable in his uncomfortability.
Exactly. Right. Yep. And he was having that moment of being there with, I think, two of the guys from other countries that were, launching the brand for this guy. And he's just chopping it up, just talking to them.
Yeah.
And he had a moment of just going, this is crazy. This is great. Look at where I am. This is amazing.
Right.
On the heels of us talking about what have you done in the last 7 months?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yep.
Then he talked about, I don't know if you guys have talked about it before, but I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? How, I guess when he gets embarrassed, he turns bright red. Is that what happens?
Yeah, he's fairly pale.
Right.
So for him, like blushing a little bit is like, beet red.
Oh, okay. So that's one of the things that he gets embarrassed about, which is getting embarrassed about. He turns bright red and that's even more embarrassing.
Exactly.
Okay.
He gets embarrassed about getting embarrassed.
Yeah. And then I think that's also when you were like, there is strength in vulnerability, which I love that. Fuck yeah, I'm embarrassed right now. Like I know, I turned bright red, and just sort of taking the power away from someone else to say like, "No, dude."
Yep, that's you'll know this because I've mentioned on here a few times. My favorite example of that I used to use when we worked in South LA with the kids there was 8 Mile. At the end of the 8 Mile movie, Eminem, like his final rap battle, he's saying so everything about himself. Like, yeah, I grew up in a trailer. Yeah, I did this. Yeah, I'm this. There. Now tell folks something about me they haven't already heard.
Yeah.
Like, you take all the power away.
Oh my God. It's so true. And I fucking love that movie. Like, love.
Oh, that movie's great. If you guys have not seen that movie, you don't have to see the whole movie. Like, Google or YouTube search, or we can link it. The final rap battles. Like, I mean, they're talking about Eminem, his character. It's kind of him, but it's his character, and he's self-conscious, and sometimes he freezes at these rap battles and he doesn't do very well. And in the final one, he goes up against this whole crew and he just rips all of them. And the very final battle, he rips himself.
Yeah, because he took it away from them.
Exactly.
They were clowning on him, and he was like, "Really? Fuck you." Anyway, so yes, and then I think you guys sort of ended it all with, rightfully so, Kobe and the Mamba mentality and the pursuit of perfection.
Right.
Which, yes, I wonder if Kobe would have agreed or not, though. He had the pursuit of perfection in all areas. Or if that really was just focused on basketball, because you guys were sort of saying his general way of being in all areas.
All areas for him.
But did he? I'm talking like relationships.
Yeah. Even on the helicopter, he was calling somebody to set something up for somebody's kid. He was always trying to be a good, and that's, I mean, I think became a really good person.
Oh, yeah.
That was always trying to be generous for other people. And I think the point that I was making, and what he might agree with, is that it's not getting to perfection and being there as a destination.
Right.
It's the journey. It's the pursuit of perfection.
Yeah.
That's the drive. And I relate to that too. Being a creative, like being able to create things. It's creating it. It's not once it's done going, here, it's done. There.
Right.
I did it. Look at it.
Right.
No, it's doing the thing. It's being a certain way. And for us, it's personal growth.
Journey, not the destination.
Yeah. Such a cliche, but so true. I mean, cliches are cliches for a reason. I think that idea of the pursuit of perfection it really is the journey, not the destination. That's what we're doing here. And it's I think we even said it, achieving is never enough. Kobe was never satisfied. Drew might never be satisfied. If you're focused on the achievement, if you're focused on the pursuit, you can find a sense of fulfillment. And that's what we do. The idea of personal growth is a pursuit.
Yeah.
And we will continue to pursue it.
Yep. We sure will.
Yep. Come on back with us next week as we pursue perfection. Or actually, I'm pursuing good enough.
The pursuit of...
The pursuit of good enough. That's what it's all about.
I'm just pursuing status quo.
Right.
Totally.
All right, guys. We'll see you on social media. If you're on there with us, awesome. If you're not, get on there and stick around. Come back next week.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you then.
Bye.
Bye.